Welcome along then as we take another walk down football's memory lane. We know times are really difficult for a lot of people right now, but hopefully for the next half an hour or so, we can put a smile on one or two of your faces. The man in the box next to me will certainly make a few Liverpool fans smile, helped Liverpool win 3 trophies back in 2001. Emile Heskey, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. Thank you.
How are you coping with the situation at home?
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, the main thing is not knowing. I think everyone could stay at home if they really knew what date they were actually going to be reconvening, but no one knows. So I think that's the uncertainty of having that is making everyone a little bit edgy. But just trying to keep the kids busy. The schools have been great. They've been sending them their work and their homework and stuff like that. So yeah, just that.
Yeah, it's a similar story, isn't it, for most people? So, obviously, football not the most important thing right now, but it does give us a chance to have a little walk down memory lane at some of the great seasons past. So, we're going to go back to 2001. So, just to put the season in context, you arrived at Liverpool at the end of the 2000 season. When did you get wind of the move from Leicester to Liverpool?
Um, I think there'd been several interests for a few years. I think I left and I was 22, but I think there'd been interest from I think I was when I was 18. Played obviously a few games with the national team and in several tournaments for youth football against Liverpool. So I think there was a little bit of interest before then, but then when Gerard Houllier came in, it just kind of just ramped up straight away. Everything just went very very quickly, and I was a Liverpool player before I knew it.
And what you said you were 22. At that
Yeah.
point, Liverpool's transfer record fee. So, does that put pressure on you? Were you excited?
Just excited to be honest with you. The pressure comes later on when people start to pick out that you've cost this much money, you've cost that much money. You're just there to play football. You're just there to enjoy your football, play it, win trophies, and I was lucky enough to go into a team at Leicester and build something with Leicester. We went to 3 cup finals in 4 years, and we were winning stuff. So for me, the next step was what's the next step? The next step is trying to fight to win the Premier League, and that's what I wanted to do. I felt that next step was with Liverpool.
So you played the end of the season with Liverpool that year. I think
Yeah,
the transfer was
last
March.
year. Yeah, yeah.
So take us then. We go through the summer. You walk back in for the start of pre-season. Who's in that dressing room with you at that point?
We still had the likes of we obviously had Robbie Fowler. We had Jamie Redknapp was still there. Um, Sammy Hippier, Stefan Hencho, Stevie G was young. Michael was there. And then I think Nick Barmby came in. Players like that. Gary Mack came in. So we had a strong nucleus of good, very, very talented players.
Yeah, on paper it was really strong. So the season
Yeah.
starts off. I think Bradford was either the first or second game of the season. 1-0. You got the goal. Was that the perfect way to get the season up and running, just to settle the nerves?
Yeah, it was. It wasn't the best of games. It was an edgy game, obviously, very hot. Obviously, becoming at the beginning of a season always hot and very edgy game because really we should have been for the likes of Liverpool. We should be seeing off teams like Bradford quite easily, and we wasn't doing that. I remember getting the ball, turning, just dropping my shoulder, running with it, and just hitting the ball and managed to score. But it was a nice way to win in the end, but it wasn't as convincing as we would have liked it to have been, to be honest.
Was scoring a big part of your game at that point, or you always had that reputation of being the centre forward the other strikers loved playing with because you'd be so unselfish, if you like?
Yeah, look, I think that was part of my game. That was part and parcel of my game, and I enjoyed that part of my game. Um, we you often look at players and you look at what they actually bring to the table. And if a goal scorer is only bringing goals and he doesn't score goals, then what is he bringing? I would like to think I brought a lot more than just chipping in with an odd goal here and there. I thought I brought a lot to the table.
So, but if we're going to pick a game when you certainly did bring more to the table, or certainly brought goals to the table, maybe the early in the season, the one game when it looked like you'd really clicked as a team. Derby away, it was 4-0. You got the
Hmm.
hat trick, and maybe that was the day when everyone thought, actually, this Liverpool team really upped the business this year.
Yeah, we could. We turned it on that day. We were very exciting. I think the first goal was from a header from Gary McAllister's free kick corner. Sorry, I think Michael got injured that day as well. But yeah, everything. It was one of those days where everything just clicks for you. You go and break. You move the ball around really well. You go and break. It was a huge pitch. Um, and we just kept the ball, kept it moving, and played the Liverpool way, and I was lucky enough to get some goals.
Who did you prefer playing with? Because up front that season you had you, Michael, Robbie Fowler, and Yari Lippmann was there that year as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he came after. Yeah. Now I always had a relationship with Michael from a young age. I think England under 18s. Well, my 18s anyway. Michael was younger than me, so he played 2 years up, and he'd done phenomenal. And I think that's where Gerald Houllier first spotted us playing together for England. He was the actual French manager then. He had Henri, Anelka, Trezeguet, Gallas, Silvestre. He had all them players and spotted me and Michael playing up front together, and we just clicked. We just clicked from there, and it was opposites attract, so it worked very, very well.
Because there was always that, I suppose, that debate about which of the, really it was you, Owen and Fowler, wasn't it, the three, which of the two that Houllier would go for on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah, look, it's funny because now you're fighting over as a striker, you're fighting over one place, aren't you now? Whereas back in the day, you had two places to contend for, um, and you formed a relationship. You tried to form a relationship, and to be honest, the actual relationship went really well with myself, Robbie, and Michael. We all managed to score our fair share of goals that season as well.
So the season's going well. You were starting to slip a little bit away from Manchester United in the title race, but one of the highlights, speaking to Liverpool fans that year, though, was beating United in December just to close the gap. Danny Murphy got the goal. Did you think at that point that you were still in the title race?
Yeah, we never thought that we was out of it. You always want to you never want to feel that you're out of it, but then you just because you give up then. But Man United have this knack of, and I see it in the England in the Liverpool side now. They have this knack of winning when you're not actually playing too well. Um, you look at Liverpool sides gone through the years, and there'll be games that they'll lose 1-0 or they'll draw because they haven't been playing too well. And but this season, them games they've grinded out results and got the 1-0 that they needed. And that was Man U back in the day. They would actually not particularly play too well, but they'll be winning games, and then they'll move on to the next one. And we just wasn't capable of doing that on a consistent basis.
So when to you did it become apparent that it was a season to focus on the cups rather than the Premier League?
Probably going into the new year, and we're getting closer towards the actual cup finals, and you see the gaps. You see the gap with the likes of United getting a little bit bigger. You're sitting in sixth place. You're saying, okay, well, let's concentrate more on this, and your focus is on that.
So if you can't win the Premier League, winning all three cup competitions, two domestic and a European, isn't bad. So first up was the League Cup that season.
Mhm.
Semi-final, first leg didn't go particularly well. You had to turn it around at Anfield in the second leg against Palace.
Yeah, we were wasteful against Palace in the first leg. To be honest with you, myself and I think Michael missed a couple as well, and then I think Clinton Morrison made a mistake of criticising Michael for myself and Michael for missing a few chances, and then ended up losing. Yeah, like you're saying, 5-0, and I think he missed a couple of chances as well.
What about the final then? So you've beaten Palace, you go into the final, and what was notable about that game particularly was it was the first domestic final, English final, to be played at the Millennium Stadium because Wembley was closed.
Yeah, definitely. It was something different. I was lucky enough to play in the old Wembley as well in them cup finals with Leicester, so that I knew the significance of playing in that cup final and being possibly in obviously in Millennium. Um, yeah, it was tough. It was against Birmingham. It was never going to be easy. We made a great start. I think I flicked the ball onto Robbie. Robbie volleyed it. Nice, unbelievable finish. And I think it was Vladdy missed a chance to make it 2-0, which possibly would have just put the game to bed. But Birmingham were a resilient side. Obviously, to get to the cup final, it's not easy. So you've got to be a good side to get there. And they were very resilient and ended up pulling one back.
How long had you known that it would be you and Robbie starting up front for that final rather than you and Michael? Did you work on it in
I
training?
No, we work on things all the time between the three of us. So it wasn't a case of, oh yeah, you're doing this. No, I think it comes to the actual day, and then the manager will decide and let everyone know that this is the way that he's going. So yeah, it wasn't a case of we'd worked on that in training.
Of course, it comes down to penalties. Do you enjoy that as a player?
I've not been a penalty taker to be honest. I was when I was a youth player, but once I got into the first team, it was kind of sorry when I got to the youth team, it was kind of pushed on everyone else, and because I got into the youth team quite young, I got into youth team at 15, so it was pushed on to everyone else, and I was like, okay, cool, and I never really took any. So I took one at Leicester in I think it was in an FA Cup penalty shootout against Arsenal. But apart from that, I hadn't really taken one. So it's a battle of nerves, isn't it? When you look at all these people practicing, and it's great to practice, to be honest with you, but you don't get that feeling when you're in a crowd and you've got this crowd baying for you in front of them, and you've got to hold your nerve and put it away. And obviously a cat and mouse game with the goalkeeper as well. So it's not the easiest thing ever.
So you win the shootout. If
Mm.
you that had been it, would that have been enough for Liverpool that season, the League Cup, or did it feel like that was the start of one of three?
Um, uh, the thing is, when you win the cup, you're like, yeah, yeah, but you want to go and win more. You want to do more. You want to do something else. So the fact that we're still in the hunt for them, the the gaffer, the manager, the boss always said, well, put this one aside now. We're on to the next one. That's your task now. That's your task to win that next one now. And that was all we did. We never got to party or anything like that. You just got to focus on this next one now, and that's what we did.
So the two competitions were ticking along nicely. FA Cup progressing relatively comfortably. European nights, some good ones. Was one in Greece, beat Roma,
Mhm.
Porto, and then Barcelona
Yeah.
semi-final. Even at that point, did Barcelona still have that aura about them of being a super club?
Yeah, definitely. They had some wonderful players. Clivert was playing there at the time, Rivaldo as well. So Puyol, players like that. The phenomenal team, phenomenal atmosphere at the stadium and everything. But in that tournament, we knew what we were about. We knew that we could actually, um, as long as we get a good result away, we beat anyone at home. And that was our philosophy. That was our mentality on the pitch. Don't worry about just keep a solid shape away. But when we're at home, we've got to beat them. And that was all we thought about, and we did it.
It's incredible now, isn't it, to think, if you're watching this and maybe you're quite a young football fan, to think Liverpool and Barcelona are meeting in the UEFA Cup, the predecessor to the Europa League, given how football has
Yeah.
progressed over the last 20 years. But it was a real nip and tuck. So 0-0 in the new camp, and then it was a
Mhm.
Gary Mack penalty, Gary
Yes.
McAllister in the second leg.
Yeah. Yes, it was. And the thing is, if you were ever to have someone to take a penalty at that moment in time, it would probably be Gary Mack. You know, a solid individual, really, really, really good for the bunch of young lads that came through at that time at Liverpool. He was brilliant because we didn't really have too many senior players that you could really look up to and count on. I'm not saying look up to, but count on, and talk to and stuff like that. And he was one of those.
What was it like in the dressing room after that game? Could you celebrate a touch then, or again was it the mind straight onto?
No, it was the mind. Gerald Julio was brilliant. The mindset was, we've won that now. We're on to the next one. And yes, in your mind you're celebrating, but you couldn't do anything. You just focus on the next game, and you know, it was just phenomenal feeling to actually say that you've beaten Barcelona as well.
So what was it like going back to Wembley for the FA Cup final then? So you've been there, you've got the League Cup already under your belt. You know you've got the UEFA Cup final coming up in Germany in a few days' time.
Yeah, the Arsenal game. You mean Millennium?
Yeah, sorry, Millennium, yeah.
Yeah, the Arsenal game was big for us. You know, obviously Arsenal with the likes of Thierry Henry. Defensively, Arsenal were phenomenal. With Tony Adams, Martin Keown, Lee Dixon, players like this. This is what they built their team off. And I'll be honest to say that we were fairly lucky that day, to be honest. But when you've got the likes of Michael Owen in your side, you've always got a chance. You've always got a chance. And I think people forget how good Michael was and how influential he was in certain games as well. And that game, he was phenomenal. It might only have been a couple of moments, but them moments count. And you can rely on someone like that to win you a game.
How were you feeling then? 10 minutes to play, you're a goal down against this Arsenal team who are incredibly defensively, rarely concede goals, and you weren't playing that well at that point. So what's the feeling on the field at that point?
Like I say, like I said, when you got someone like Michael on the pitch, I think his ball, I think it was Paddy Berger's ball over the top, and no one else would have caught that. No one else would have got that and had the ability to actually create from nothing. And if you look at that goal as well, they've pushed him. I think it's Tony Adams pushed him onto his left foot, and he's like, no problem, fine. He just dragged it with his left foot and with his right foot and just placed it with his left. And this is what Michael brings, and this is what he gives. He instinctively knows exactly where to be and how to finish it off.
2 goals in the last 7 minutes to turn it around, to win the FA Cup, the Cup double. At that point, was that as good as you'd felt on a football pitch?
Oh yes, definitely. Obviously, I'd won trophies with Leicester, and that was a phenomenal feeling as well. But to go and do it in the same season, to lift 2 different trophies up in the same season was something new to me. So it was just an amazing feeling to have all the fans there, you know, shouting your name and you know, so happy is wonderful.
So you're in the dressing room afterwards. Is there time for any celebrations? I think I know where we're going with this one because there's the European final 4 days away.
Exactly. No, there was no celebrations. We have to get going again and get ready for another one.
Was there a part of you, or maybe not you, the whole team, to beat Barcelona to reach a European final? Did you almost feel like you were halfway there? Your name was on the trophy. Alaves, with all due respect to them, didn't have the same aura about them at all that Barcelona did.
No, it didn't. But we knew, like I said before, to get to a cup final is not easy. So for them to get there, they'd have to have done something very well. And you know, we knew that we were going to be in for a very, very tough game, and we was. We was.
So what was it like going to Germany then? Were things a little bit different? How early did you travel? A couple of days out before the game.
Yeah, we would have done, and just set up there and set up camp there, did a little bit of training, and visited the stadium and everything. And yeah, it was all fine. It was all good. But we travelled a lot that season, obviously within Europe and stuff like that. So it was like a normal, traveling for a normal UEFA League game.
So how did the atmosphere in Dortmund that night compared to the Millennium Stadium a few days earlier?
Just loud. I remember seeing just this one stand was huge. I can't remember which stand it was, but it was huge. It just went up and up, and just you should
Behind
see
the goal.
fans. Yeah, it was ridiculous. But no, just fun. This is what you want to come into football for. This is what you want to do. You want to entertain. You want to play in front of the biggest crowds ever. You want to make people happy. Hopefully make other people sad. This is what you love.
So it was you and Robbie up front in the League Cup final, you and Michael for the FA Cup final. When did you find out it will be you and Michael again for the Alaves final?
Again before the game. Again before the game. I never knew before any of them, only just before the games that I was actually going to play in them. To be honest with you, so again, it was just before the game that I knew that I was going to be playing.
It must have made you feel good that when it was always 3-2, you were always one of the two.
Yeah, it was. It did. It fit obviously the system that we were playing, and the manager had faith in me. So it was always good that that he picked me.
So talk us through the game. It was a ridiculous game of football. Quite honestly, it was to use the old cliche, it was like a game of basketball. It was just goal.
No one really wanted to calm down, did they? The funny thing is with that game, I had to watch it back to know what happened, because if you look at that season, I think that was the last game of the season, and that was something like 65 games that season, and I'd honestly mentally probably just had enough. So I didn't actually remember the game, even though it was a crazy game. Um, I was just on autopilot that game, and when I look back, I was like, "Oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, that happened." I didn't really remember the game.
Were you mentally tired or physically?
Mentally, I think more than physically.
Really?
Yeah, mentally more than physically. Yeah, it was just a long season. You got to remember, I'd only just come from Leicester, which we, with all due respect, yes, we go to cup finals and we played in cup finals, but we never played on the magnitude of the pressure that you go through every single game and all that. I just think that after that season, well, come to the end that game in that season, mentally, I was gone. But it was no, seriously. But then obviously watching the game back, it was a strange game that no one really calmed the game down and say, look, let's just relax, let's try and play this and let's do this, and it was just to and throwing.
The way the goals are going back and forward, the Spaniards, Alaves, what impressed, I think, most people who weren't familiar with them was they were never ahead, but they always found ways to get themselves back into the game. So Marcus Babbel had you in front, Gerrard, McAllister, so you were 2-0, 3-1 up, and they found a way to pull it back and pull it back. What did you think when Jordi Cruyff made it 4-4 then, that 2 or 3 minutes before full time? Were you deflated?
Yeah. Yes. You think you finally got there. You think you finally got your foot over the line, and then he pulls it back, and you're like, oh, here we go. But the good thing is, no one drops their head in them sort of situation. This is what's great about football, especially English football. We are never say die. I remember certain players coming from abroad, and they when they first come over, they don't really get the mentality of English football or British football. They will say, but you're 2-0 down. Why are you still trying? Because we can still win. But this is our mentality, and it shows in this final.
So 3 minutes from penalties again, and finally the golden goal. It's an own goal. Describe that feeling when the season is finally over.
I think Gary Mackle wouldn't be happy with it being called an own goal, would he?
Well, what's the feeling in your head when it finally the ball goes in and the season is a third trophy and can finally switch off, celebrate?
It was golden goal, wasn't it? So
yeah.
No one actually knew. No, I don't think anyone knew whether to celebrate or whether to go back or what was it. So, but yeah, we'd finally done it. We could relax, have a little bit of a break, and have a party, and look back and reflect on what was a great season. To be honest with you, yes, we were far off the actual Premier League, but we went on and won 3 cups, and a lot of these games, unlike some of the games now, you go to replay. Sorry, you go to extra time and replays and second legs and this. So there's a lot of games being played. So, like I said, at the end of the season, we played 60. I think it was 65. I think Cara played 62 games. 62 games in one season. It's crazy.
So where did you celebrate? In Germany that night, or when you got back to Liverpool?
Good question. I think it was in Germany that night, to be honest with you. I honestly can't remember.
Well, the reason I mentioned Germany, because a fantastic season with Liverpool, the 3 trophies. But of course, maybe for many people, the highlights of that year came a little bit later in 2001 in an England shirt. You'd already won a couple more trophies, the Community Shield and the Super Cup. But then you go to Germany with England for a European
Mhm.
qualifier in what may be England's most complete ever performance. Just before we finish, Emile, what do you remember about that night?
Um, Amazing night, to be honest. I walk around the street even to today, and this is the game that everyone stops me for. Everyone speaks highly. Everyone remembers exactly where they were when this game was being played. If you remember, the previous game was at the old Wembley, the final game at the old Wembley. So we lost that game. So that wasn't a good one, and people will remember you for that. And then we went 1-0 down. Should have been 2-0 down, but I think Seaman made an amazing save. And again, it was just one of those games that everything just clicked. You play the ball in, you lay it back, and every pattern of play that you wanted to do worked. And I think it was it Steve who scored the first, and then Michael, and then I just topped it off with the fifth, which you know we could never have dreamt of, to be honest.
Was that the best England performance you were part of?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. The way that we dismantled them and just popped it around and kept the ball and kept it moving, and we had a great side, but everything just clicked that day, and everything just looked so simple.
It was a brilliant year.
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, and that was one of the highlights of it as well.
Emile, last question before we finish. How would your Liverpool team have done against the current side?
Um, I think we'd have done okay. I think if you're taking the way that we played and the way that they play now, I think they play obviously. This is just being me being honest. I think they play better football. Um, I think they probably the way they play and how dynamic they are. They would cause some serious problems. But you never know. We always it depends if we played away first or not. we, if we could keep it a 0-0 away, as long as we get the home dressing room at Anfield, we'll be fine.
Emile, brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.